My 34 female husband, 41 male, is angry with me, and I need advice on how to make this better. For the past year, I have been in a very rough spot emotionally. The good news is that I have been working on figuring out the issue, and I got a diagnosis is bipolar 2 disorder. The bad news is, it's not under control right now. I'm working with doctors on medicating, and don't even get me started on my struggle to find therapy. I've been told due to COVID it's extra difficult to find someone taking new patients. The struggle is real. Now to the issue at hand lately, when my husband and I bicker, nothing serious either, could be as small as, well, why didn't you clean this dish? I get over emotional and I just cry. I try to excuse myself and do it where he cannot see or know, but he always knows. I try very hard not to come to tears, but I don't know. I just can't. The last time my husband and I got into a little tiff, I started to cry. I wasn't even in the same room, and my husband got even more mad at me, because he felt manipulated into not being able to vent his frustrations. And I totally get that. But I also don't want to have this reaction to everything. He's pretty mad at me because, as he says, I'm allowed to have emotions, too. I feel awful. I want to tell him that I know he's allowed to feel this, and I know my reaction is absolutely irrational and I just want to fix this. Please help. Sorry for the absolute jumble of words. English is my first language, I just really suck at articulating myself. And #X200B. Too long did not read. I have a hard time controlling my emotions and it's starting to wear on my husband. I understand both of you. My boyfriend completely shuts down and gets super sad when I bring up any issue, which makes it impossible for me to talk to him. At the same time, I cry quickly just when I am overwhelmed, without it meaning anything, let alone manipulation. I can also imagine that your bipolar is very hard on your husband as well, especially if you have had a very rough year. I try to sit down with your husband when you are both calm and have a conversation about how to have a constructive argument, and what you need from each other to be able to talk to each other to get through it. Suggested script: Husband, I need you to understand when I cry, it's not really about you. I am not doing it on purpose to manipulate you, or to provoke any particular response from you. I don't expect you to drop your concerns when I start crying, or to switch from expressing your grievances to comfort me. I understand that it's hard for you that I cry so easily, but it's not something I can fully control. Even if I am crying, I still want to hear you out and understand your perspective. Perhaps suggest taking a break when emotions get high and resuming the conversation when you're calmer. I would also explain the biology behind crying to him. Some people SRE criers and other people are not. It's not voluntary, I don't do it to be manipulative, in fact, I just prefer if you'd ignore my tears and continue discussing with me as if they aren't there. I think the best advice is trying to communicate your emotions to him without it making it sound like his fault, but also trying to listen and talk about his emotions. It sounds like he feels like he isn't being heard, so you should try to sit and talk with him. I cry when I'm super angry. If I'm doing so while talking to my boyfriend, I stop, let him know the crying is happening, but I'm still doing my best to communicate with him, and then we continue. I'm sure it's frustrating for both of you, but if you aren't normally a crier, this is going to be your life until you've gotten your meds figured out. It might even be your life after your meds get figured out. Congratulations on your diagnosis and good luck in setting treatment. I'm told it's a difficult disorder to negotiate with. It sounds like you're full up on stressor and your only outlet is to cry as a means of releasing pressure and relieving some stress. I've had this exact argument with my husband telling me he feels manipulated when I cry during an argument. I am dearly sorry and I don't have any advice. But you are not alone and his getting upset about you crying is very unfair. There is either nothing here or just this link. I'm like this too, and I've been accused of being manipulative for it by everyone ranging from previous partners to my own mother. I'd stop if I could, but it's out of my control. What I found works the best with my current partner is to reassure him that I'm okay, that it isn't about him, and that my physical response isn't reflecting how I'm feeling. If he knows I'm okay, then he feels less need to drop what he's saying and comfort me. It really does suck, though. I feel your pain. Ask your husband to vent his frustrations by writing you a letter. He can say what he needs to say, and you can read it, then write a reply when you are alone. You sound incredibly self-aware. I think you should be honest and say something along the lines of, I am not myself right now. I'm working on figuring this out. I know it's been hard and I appreciate your support, love and compassion. I frankly feel overwhelmed by my emotions and crying is one of my outlets right now. I am not trying to manipulate you, I love you. I also want you to feel heard and able to express your feelings. What's one thing I can do to help support you? And hopefully that opens a dialogue about how he can support you too. Sending lots of love and hugs. My husband and I were in this spot for a few years and I've finally found a medication that works and it's like a whole new life. I'm hoping you find the key that unlocks this gift for you, too. Heart. Have you been medicated yet? But the therapy goes hand in hand. Having BOD or BP is not the end-all be-all, but it does force you to work even harder in self-awareness. Sounds like you're making your diagnosis your identity instead of you. That does require a therapist, especially when in times you do hit mania and picking up the slightest criticism like you said that send you to depression. A therapist is going to help you hear yourself, learn the most about yourself and help you with a treatment plan to develop self-recovery when you do see yourself hit the following mania and depression. You're doing great, baby steps. You should do some more of what makes you happy and engage in activities that bring peace to you. For me, I enjoy exercising, cleaning, or doing really just anything I find productive that keeps my body and my hands busy. It's hard to get started sometimes, but motivation comes after you've already started. Plus, doing things you enjoy and doing things that make you feel accomplished builds confidence and brings you close to your center. It'll give you both something to talk about as well. You just need something positive to add to your conversations with him. He clearly loves you. He'll match your efforts. Just try. I have gone through this exact same thing. Even have bipolar type 2 as well and I cry all the time. Finding the right medication will help it a lot. I know it's impossible not to cry. Just try taking a shower when you feel that coming on. Try to remember that your partner is your safe place and we have to deal with the entire day, which is difficult enough. Your time together is precious, you don't want to spend that fighting. You both know how you feel. You both know why the reactions are happening. Y'all be good. There's no denial or gaslighting going on here. Let it out. Come back together after, kiss and make up. That's all. I am also someone that cries all the time. I can barely have a disagreement or serious discussion with my husband without bursting into tears. It's annoying and so embarrassing. I explained to my husband that my crying is a result of not learning how to resolve conflict in a normal way as a child, classic abusive household, and to please just literally ignore it completely and talk things through with me. Do not react and just let me cry for a minute and regain my composure. It really helps and also makes my emotional reaction much easier for me to get through and get past. Write out your feelings and explain everything. That the crying thing is temporary until you land on the right kind of help you need. You don't mean to cry, and you certainly don't want to have this issue make him feel manipulated out of speaking his mind. Until you have this thing conquered, is it possible the two of you could express your anger calmly? For example, due to childhood abuse, I get very frightened when people yell in anger. So my fiancé doesn't yell. He'll tell me, honey, I'm really pissed off that you did this. I get frustrated when you don't and we talk it out. It generally avoids tears, provided we're not discussing a serious issue. Good luck. This is absolutely not your fault. Your husband can be stressed, of course, but absolutely no amount of stress will ever justify telling the person actually struggling with a disorder that you're being manipulated by them because the person has the symptoms of the disorder. It's ignorant at best, and guilt-tripping at worst. The fact you're going after treatment is great, and I wish you the absolute best with it. I know it's not easy, so I wanted to say that as well. You're allowed to cry. If he feels guilty, that's okay. Doesn't make you manipulative. To be honest, he sounds like kind of a tool. You're allowed to cry. If he feels guilty, that's okay. Doesn't make you manipulative. To be honest, he sounds like kind of a tool. I will admit that you are in a real whirlwind. Is there any chance that you can show him in writing the problem you are dealing with? He needs to understand both sides of bipolar, as you can revert to the other side and he will not like the person he married. Understanding a problem is one battle for both of you. The correct medication taken as directed is your task. Times are tough for all of us right now and the end is not in sight, so hang in there and keep trying to get in to see a professional that can help both of you. Crying because you are having an emotion does not make you manipulative. He needs to manage how he reacts to your outward emotions. Right now you can't control how you react and you're dealing with your new diagnosis, however it doesn't make your emotions invalid. However irrational it may seem, it's an honest reaction, maybe an overreaction, but it's simply an outward expression of what you would have been feeling. You would be sad in an argument, so it makes sense to shed a tear if that emotion is magnified. It's not manipulative to show emotion. He needs to learn how to express himself and not worry about how you're reacting to that. Communication problem. You guys should find a middle ground. I felt this. I'm always crying for no reason at all and I hate it. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 12, but I'd like to get checked for something else as well soon. Your English is great. BTW thumbs up. This is a hard situation. It just sounds like you are different people. I am not saying that there needs to be a breakup, divorce. But there should be a re-evaluation on where things stand between you two. Sounds like you are just different people. Yeek. I don't handle crying well, it makes me irrationally angry. I am definitely a shut it down and deal with it once I have analyzed it from every angle. L type of person. No idea why someone crying makes me so irritated, nothing to do with feeling manipulated. I think I find it frustrating because it feels unproductive. I rationally understand that crying for most people is a knee-jerk reaction, and in a lot of cases totally valid, but I can see how it CLD feel like someone putting up a barrier to furthering the conversation. Sorry I don't have the answer, but I hope you two manage to sort things out. Wishing you all the best. I think what your husband does is proof of how much he loves you, even to stop himself of saying anything cause he feels guilty when he sees you cry. Talk to him, say that everything he feels is valid even in an argument, and that crying is just how you are reacting to anything and everything, that your brain is processing at a huge speed and that you are overwhelmed. He loves you, and you love him a lot. Both of you can do this. My wife has the same diagnosis as you and it is hard sometimes. I feel the same way as your husband, but I find that what's worked for us at least is to take a break from the discussion until she's no longer feeling unable to handle, communicate the way she wants to. Both of us want to really. What might make you cry in the moment might be easier to work through a few hours later when you've been cooled off. It's frustrating to feel angry at someone and not feel like you're able to express it. That's a very real thing, but we're probably all better off talking things through once our more rational, calm selves has taken over. I cry every time my boyfriend and I argue. I'm just an emotional person. I don't do well with conflict and sometimes it makes him mad and I just say I'm sorry, I'm just emotional and I don't like this. Do you really get it though? Sometimes when a partner has an illness it immediately becomes all about them. This leaves the other party feeling helpless and lost and everything becomes hard, but if ye don't understand that then ye're lost together but apart. You say you're trying everything, but if you are then you know the proper medication is lithium, although scary with CBT is the proper way to go. Check into your DNA for the MTHFR polymorphism. Can be misdiagnosed as bipolar. Can be managed with the right nutrition. Break up. He needs someone more mature. I used to react like this to fights, so I'd go take a walk and either text them while I'm walking. Typing can be very factual and you can say what you want without tears. Or generally once I'd gotten back and prefaced it with a, I'm sorry, I just need a moment to clear my head before we can talk about this, text, I'd feel in a better headspace to not be so emotional. I did find that my overreaction to things was partly because of my ex's immediate and angry reaction to things. It's almost like any tiny thing would suddenly make them fly off the handle, so I would react in response. My partner now just talk about things like normal people. So, it may also not just be you. Maybe have a look at your husband's responses and see if there's any improvements both of you can make. You should divorce him immediately. Honestly, I think husband needs his own therapy. Not just because it's tough for him, but specifically the feeling manipulated part. He's seeing something happen and assuming incorrect intentions behind it. That's up to him to change, not you, and something for him to work out in his own therapy. Edit. Seriously, downvotes for this. If you disagree, explain why. It seems he is not on your side of anything. You are not manipulating him, he's just being an ass. He knows you cannot be a listener right now to his problems and he still gets angry with you. He needs serious therapy for anger issues. You will make it through this. Just try to keep your head about you. My sister is also bipolar and tend to cry a lot over tiny things. It helps her if she watches a heart-touching movie that makes her cry and then she's wrung out of tears for a while. Maybe this helps. So it sounds like you are trying to juggle cyclothymia and everything else going on. You may need to sit down and explain to your husband that it's not manipulation but instead it's the depressed part of the cycle and you are working to control it without the aid of mental health assistance right now. If he wants to know more about, Stephen Fry discusses his issues with cyclothymia. As for getting help, you may want to look at some of the teleconference mental health apps. I know BetterHealth had a bit of controversy, however there are others that are above board. Every day 20 minutes a day the two think of something you love to do. Beautiful, calming and positive. You can do it. Good luck, stay well. Not a medical advice, just my own experience. Would be great for the husband to get, temporary, on antidepressants. This will help him and you. Ask a doctor and I bet that he will say the same. I cry easily when I'm stressed. It used to upset my boyfriend for similar reasons to yours. But then we just talked it out and I put forward the fact that though I can't control the crying. 1. It doesn't mean that I'm guilting him, and 2. I can carry on the conversation despite the tears. So now that's how we deal with it. It's an outward sign that I'm upset, nothing more. The conversation carries on and we sort things out as if I wasn't crying. Because it's not really part of the argument. I once cried in a job interview at an animal hospital when they asked if I would be able to keep my composure when an animal has to be put to sleep. Did not get the job. I've cried during performance reviews where all the feedback was positive, so yeah. Just let your husband know that this sort of thing is beyond our control, and not a manipulation tactic. It's mostly just embarrassing. Have your own separate bedroom with a lock. Have a TV or radio. Dedicate it the cry room. If you feel like crying, go to the room, lock it, cry, and let it all out. You'll feel better. Maybe you need to be medicated and exercise. Try researching into emotional sobriety, understanding boundaries, asking for wants, needs, being able to label the emotion and having healthy coping mechanisms around it. I know when I'm in a relationship, as long as I see that other person actively trying to better themselves, it lifts a lot of stress. I mean, if he gets upset, it's okay if you get upset and cry. I want you to explain that to him. Remind him you need some space and time to work through it, then you can work through the issue together. Sometimes, apologizing by saying sorry is the best way to patch up with your loved ones. While apologizing, smiling face, sati calm, and don't let your ego to come in between your conversation. Explain your situation to him with hesitancy, with fully honesty. I know he will understand what you're going through. Give him a hug and sit down for a conversation. I'm bipolar 2. Have you tried online therapy? It's way better during COVID. I'll tell you what my group told me. Take the meds, but it takes 2 weeks to stabilize you. Exercise. Eat the Mediterranean diet. Sleep regularly. Talk to someone, even a family doctor, regularly. Your husband needs to grow up. If he had a heart attack, would you be yelling at him about how hard it was on you? Come on, that's crazy. Also, I'm allowed to have emotions too, doesn't include anger and making you feel bad over an unwashed dish. Or crying. You got a diagnosis of bipolar 2 and the worst you ever do is cry. Damn, he got off easy. IDK. I lived with a bipolar parent and it was the worst time of my entire life. They refused to get help. Please make medication and therapy your number one priority. Stay on your medication. It does wear on people, and if you don't stay medicated, you'll ruin both your lives. I could help you connect with a good therapist if you want. Trying to get better is not a very easy step, but you'll get there. Hope you both figure this out.